play, whatever.
I'll start.
You want to go?
Yeah, if someone doesn't want this,
just
want to
don't,
be.
yeah. You're all cool though.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Are you
Okay,
okay?
so we're manifesting the future in the present. Let's make one now. Okay. Okay, so manifest is the future. So what I do, like, because I have a lot of I like a lot of jokes, and I'm constantly making memes. So I started when I was in school. Actually, I was making a lot of memes, theory memes. So I call them Memefestos of the future. A lot more shorter and weirder. And I saw you guys like cats, I think. Or no, was that a different class? The karaoke?
The karaoke was not a class.
Okay, no, but you are the karaoke.
No.
Okay, sorry.
No,
Okay, that's
Zilika is
different
not here.
thing. Crap.
Who went to karaoke?
Zilika,
Okay.
and there was nobody came. There were very
Sorry,
few people
okay.
who came.
That's a miss.
But I like
Alright.
cats.
All right.
I like cats.
I like really bad, trashy internet culture. So I'm sorry. I prepared it for that tone, so just I'm sorry. This is gonna be really silly. Okay, so the way I see manifestos is like it's kind of there's like a form and function. Like there's a delivery of content, the concepts, and then there's a form. So I was kind of messing with both ends at the same time. The primary kind of concept that I'm working with also Selma, my partner, it's called superposition. Let's see. Have you guys ever studied quantum mechanics? Any of you? No, anything? Okay, superposition. Okay, so let's say this. Superposition is like when. So in normal physics, it's like I can't be here and in that chair at the same time, or in your chair at the same time. But in superposition, I can be in all chairs at the same time. So that's allowed. Or you can be in all chairs, or we can be in each other's chairs. Kind of thing. So I found this really stupid GIF, superposition cat. And there's also this thought experiment by Schrodinger where he's talking about a cat in a box stuff. Let's see. But let's get to the manifesto. I want to see what you guys. So I kind of broke it into sections. Like there's a traditional written manifesto. There's like a more performative manifesto. I collaborated with Selma and Boryana, and also Mario contributed.
My son is Mario.
Yeah. Also, so we didn't. I think I was like realizing almost any type of performance and media we're making could be termed as a manifesto because we're trying to deliver conceptual content through a mixture of forms. So let's see. Here's what's called superpositional intersectionalism.
If you want us to read it, we just need to keep it up.
Okay.
For a little bit.
Got it. So again, this is like a merger of like kind of internet culture. You can see like emojis and that kind of thing in the background. Reference to pop culture. Do you guys know Snap? We've got the power. Wait, what?
Snap is music.
We've got Snap power.
No. It's the 80s.
80s, 90s.
Oh,
yeah.
just a
dance track. You know, clearly, it's popular.
I've got the power.
I've got the power.
Yeah, it's very popular.
Yeah.
Awesome. I just found this great illustration by this guy named Gonzalez. So we're gonna go through the manifesto. I'm curious what this was specifically for a project we all collaborated on with Boryana and Selma for the Roma Queer Festival and Forum, Sofia Queer Forum, 2021. It took place in Bulgaria. Give me a
Maybe you'll read it.
yeah. You guys.
I can't perform it.
All right, perform it. Yeah, let me put on some music also. Maybe I should put on a song.
I've got the power.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, hold on. So we'll just give it some. So you know the vibe. Manifestos also have a vibe. Oh, come on. No, I'm done. No. Okay, yeah. Alright, we're just gonna go low in the background. Okay. Alright, we've got the power. Okay, this is not simply another symbolic gesture. It is a call to rethink and reframe our possibilities and our collective futures specifically aware of the sensitivities and issues of heavily discriminated populations, and creating a space to exchange empowering tools and technologies. Okay, so we have 4 main questions. How could a physical body resist? How could a digital body resist? How could art be used as a legal tool to resist? And how could a community of resistance be built using social media? Here we go. We are particularly interested in recontextualizing possible egalitarian distributions of skills and knowledge in oppressed populations in terms of historical shifts and social norms and relations, new understandings of the present in terms of quantum mechanics, and as a result, the infinite possible variations of individual subjectivity. In addition, we will collect uses of art as a tool to resolve socio-legal conflicts. When we engage with new technologies and media with this aim, we can expand the expressive possibilities of our bodies, create mutually self-emancipating social relations and contracts, and reduce the amount of energy that we use for communication and coordination. Let's see. When we pass on knowledge and skills fostering autodidacticism and reflection, this disrupts hierarchy at the functional level, not simply the symbolic level. Individual bodies ethically develop more complex capacities, both physical and conceptual, which allow for more egalitarian, diverse, and flexible social relations. All of these explorations of resistance can be greatly accelerated through an empathetic community and space open for reflection on our shared humanity. No single individual is inherently greater or lesser than another. We're all moving towards more complex forms of being. As such, we all will face a time when mutual aid, either physical or conceptual, through in-person or digital means from one individual can save the life of another. Let's also acknowledge the reality that the privileged oppressed minorities, such as the Roma, and oppressed minorities reproduce oppressive logics upon more vulnerable minorities, such as the queer Roma. With this in mind, we would like to imagine and construct a performative discourse from the point of view of a superpositional guard. Superposition is a term for quantum mechanics. The superpositional guard drops in the idea of an avant-garde from the cultural processes of both the military and art, while fusing it with the empirical grounding of quantum computing to pose a new possible solidarity, which refuses the reproduction of oppressed logics by the oppressed. Understanding that a new form of solidarity may be uncomfortable, we will contextualize the inevitable conflicts as simply part of the process of collective learning. All right, last one, sorry. Finally, we don't want to get trapped in symbolic rituals or massive discussions that don't affect concrete change and improve our conditions of living. There is precedence in history for individuals to come together and rapidly improvise new grassroots strategies for using technology and media that strategically upset the balance of power from established majority forces. We open the space for intellectuals and inventors to historicize, strategize, and ethically experiment with empowering uses of tools that can not only help us survive, but even better thrive. By definition, there are more of us who do not benefit from the inequities of society than there are who do. Like Snap said, we've got the power. And so it's fuck the apocalypse, let the superpositional party be end. And there's a little definition, much more technical definition here.
Yeah, I think you should read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quantum superposition is a fundamental principle of quantum mechanics. It states that much like waves in classical physics, any 2 or more quantum states can be added together, superposed, and the result will be another valid quantum state. And conversely, that every quantum state can be represented as a sum of 2 or more other distinct states. Okay. That was a lot. So, do you guys want to, like, maybe we just, you can ask me something about this. There's a lot of weird new things here.
I'm curious if you could elaborate on what the superpositional guard is. I understand the idea of superposition, but like, how does that what's an example of an organization? Because the idea is like, you can kind of be, there's a possibility that you can be anything or be anywhere at one time, right? So how do you envision that?
In multiple states. Yeah, so, I can pull up a performance. Okay, this is good. Okay. Let's see. So this is done in 2018 or something by Selma. Collaborative. So the idea is that, like, she's like, so usually in a boxing fight, you have the two sides, right? Two boxers, and then a referee or a coach on each side. So she's playing, like, she's basically fighting herself, right? So it collapses that state, but she's also coaching herself as both the defense and the offense. So this is kind of like a way to visualize through video art. This is like based on a huge tradition of like Vito Conchi, like 70s style video art, where it's like one person, pretty straightforward action.
And the camera is on her glove.
Yes, that's the camera's, so that shot in the beginning, there's two circles, that's a 360 camera. It's on they're really cheap. So it's a 360 camera, it's on her glove, and I think that's from experimental film. That's like a technique from, I don't know. It's, people do it a lot now, but that was an experimental film thing.
But maybe you can talk a little bit about what is the social significance of this transfer of concept from quantum physics into identity.
Okay, so.
Or political, because this is, your manifesto is about identity and thinking that you are talking through quantum physics, that if we think about physics in that way, then superposition is possible, being multiple identities at the same time, or being multiple characters and being multiple places and times at the same time. It's like being a particle and a wave,
Yes.
similar to quantum physics. But how is this transferring into your social work or political work? As a concept that inspires certain actions, maybe.
Oh, how does it
Or
become?
whatever. Yeah, just start with, I'm sorry. I asked too many questions, but the transfer from quantum physics to artistic concepts, you showed there is a one
Right.
artistic representation, although there are many
Yes.
you've done,
Yes.
and then how it transfers to social work,
Social work, okay.
or socially engaged art and political statements,
Let's see.
which
what-
the manifesto is.
Okay. So I think, let me think about this. I can show this one. It's kind of an expansion on it, but, so one simple thing. Let me show this one, okay, real quick, and then there's a work I didn't pull up, but I can talk about. So this is also collaboration with Boryana. She helped us organize this with students at Syracuse University. Chongha. What?
It was not collaboration, I just helped.
Oh, sorry. I mean, whatever.
It's okay. Well, thank you, thank you.
360,000 kilometers. This is in performance of the base speed at which everything within the Milky Way galaxy is physically traveling through the universe, human bodies, geopolitical borders, and subatomic particles. The resulting amount of physical possibilities for any and all beings are endlessly infinite and immeasurable, even like quantum computers. The immeasurable possibilities of our physical motion is the ground for a new way to think of ourselves and our social freedoms, a concept which Selma Selman calls superpositional intersectionalism. In this performance, Selma Selman and Chongha Peter Lee will struggle for 10 rounds while switching roles, genders, species, and names At the same rate in which the galaxy moves 1 kilometer through the universe, 600 times a second. Every round, myself, Sam Gelfand, will announce the round, how far we have traveled through the galaxy, and how many times Selma and Peter have changed roles, gender, species, and names. During each round, one leader will commentate the match at the same speed the galaxy is moving through the universe, speaking 1 word per kilometer the galaxy travels, producing a tone that cycles at 600 times per second. Now, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the struggle? Introducing first, to my left, Selma! And introducing next, to my right, Chongha Peter Lee! Currently, they have changed roles, gender, species, and names 0 times. Are you two ready? Want a good clean swivel? Just make sure you're not hitting the little bell. Fight! Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of round 1. At this moment, Selma and Chongha Peter Lee have exchanged roles, genders, species, and names 36,000 times. It's time for round 2. Are you ready? Computer? Fight!
Like, 15 minutes, 10 rounds, I think 1 minute each. And so we agreed to just swap kind of all our categories at the speed that the universe was actually moving. So that was kind of a visualization. And it's like built on all this tradition of video art as a way to like visualize and get out a concept in a way outside of text. But I'm curious, what do you guys think? What's your reaction here? Is it really weird? Like, no, it's not that weird. Okay, all right. But yeah, so the idea was like to kind of, with the idea of superposition, we could then create all these new flexible relations. So we could reframe struggle, like there's this pun with struggle, where we're actually physically struggling, but we're doing this, it's also in terms of the conceptual, or like the struggle against these kind of taxonomies and definitions. It's not really, like just like in artwork, it's kind of balancing these things in a complex situation. It's not really going one way or another. because I don't know if you guys know it. Oh, let me explain this. Oh, Selma is Roma, which is like one of the biggest minorities. It is the biggest minority in Europe. So, and I think also in some parts of the Middle East. So it's kind of working with that type of conflicts of representation also. And it's just trying to open up and make things more complex. That was the idea there. Let's see. Go ahead.
I was wondering if one of your group was Roma, having written that manifesto, because I was like, I didn't know that going in, and I was like, I don't really know if you have the space or the authority to be writing that manifesto. So now that I know that,
Okay.
it's one of those things.
Gotcha.
So,
Right.
know why I was.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the interesting thing about superposition, because typically we have there's that perspective in terms of representation that the person from that category has to be speaking also. But there's a long history of I don't know if you guys heard this term proxy politics. Have you guys heard this a little bit? You know what a proxy is in technology?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like it's like a computer that can switch its identity, right? So
it's go between.
Exactly, it's kind of the same. So there's a history in activism, at least I just know in the U.S., of called proxy politics, where there would be, especially dealing with the African American community, I think in Chicago, there's this guy named Saul Alinsky, who worked with the African American community to represent against gentrification, early 20th century. But what he did was he made an agreement to ask for proxy rights to represent, kind of advocate, right? But there was a clear kind of limit on what he could do, what he couldn't do, and then he successfully, he gained protections for that community in terms of housing. So they had some rent control come into the city.
Mm-hmm.
So and also superposition. So that's why we keep emphasizing superposition, because with superposition, it's kind of referring to the physical actuality of things, right? So proxy is like an artificial constructed, we have to create that agreement, but things are in superposition already, and it's like then reality is already in superposition. Then on top, we can adjust social contracts if we choose to. It's not mandatory. Not everybody has to do it. It's just that option is now legitimate, if that makes sense, and based on physical reality.
Yeah, so can I paraphrase it
Please.
Very simplistic way, even vulgar maybe. So the superpositional intersectionality gives you a right to advocate for everyone, even though you are not necessarily having the identity, but you are a specific identity that you are advocating for, but we're already too complex as identities. There is no singular identity, that this intersectionality exists in each of us. So this gives us a way to understand or to empathize or be in solidarity with someone that we are not.
Exactly, and it's this is why I like the idea of a contract function, because it gives you options. Right, it's not like so I had to make an agreement with Selma. Everything's it's like business with Selma. I had to make an agreement with Selma, and she gave me certain ability for to do certain things at that time.
Yeah, but it's
negotiable.
Okay, so but how does it relate to the superpositional intersectionality?
Oh, superpositional intersectionality. So that allows,
because she's delegating you these rights,
right?
But doesn't it go against the idea of superposition?
No, I think it's I think they work together, because it's let's say, I can go out and do certain things, but if I think it's what is it going to say? If it's going to negatively affect her, I don't have the right to say that it's, what's it called?
Okay, so it is a partial superposition that you're having.
It's not an ideal.
Yeah. So there's you still have to deal with.
Because an ideal superpositionality would say you have just as much authority to speak for Roma as Selma does, or as Boryana does, or as I do. But so it's acknowledging that there's some.
Yeah. So reality is just what I'm saying, what this is
It's
more
not
like
quant-
two layers.
Reality is not quantum
Yeah,
physics.
think about like a cake. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. No.
I'm
Like, think
not
about
sure.
Think about this. Like a cake.
Yeah, we need
Okay,
a cake
time
now.
for the cake.
Yeah.
Cake has multiple layers, right? There's the bread, and then there's the icing on top, right? Okay. But the structure of the cake is bread. It's 80% bread, right? The icing is kind of.
That's the American
the
cake.
basic- huh?
Other cakes are not
Okay,
this.
sorry. This is Western cake.
Yeah.
I go Western cake. Okay, but so what we're saying is like 80% of reality, like reality, 100% is like the bread is in superposition. Everything's in just wild superposition. Okay, untamable superposition.
What? Say it again.
Like it's just like in uncontrollable superposition. Everything is.
The bread.
Yeah, like
Okay.
Vast majority, the structure.
The vast,
Oh, okay.
the majority.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
99 well, like 100%. Okay, actually, right? And it's like changing beyond, even the speed that we can think. Okay. So, but then society happens on the icing of the cake. That's like what we can perceive and change mainly, if that makes any sense. So even still, we're like, okay. So I actually had to make a contract with Selma to acknowledge the bread, if that makes any sense. Even though the bread is happening, but it's like.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it makes sense
know
to
if that
me.
makes
I
sense.
don't know. Yes,
Yeah.
Anshu has a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So let me see if I'm getting this correctly. So by proxy rights, you mean that as an artist, you have been given rights to say something about some other community, right?
Yeah.
And your argument is that most of everyone is on a fundamental level same, and it's just
Yes.
the top layer which is different between, for example,
Yes.
a person who's from Roma community as compared to someone who's from African American community. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
That because of this reason, you have some sort of authority or proxy rights to make work on even a community which you do not belong to completely.
Right. And there's also a term in social practice. I don't know if you've heard of this critic named Claire Bishop. I don't know if you guys read. Yeah. But she writes about delegated performance, which is also kind of giving the rights. People can agree to transfer the rights to another person to act within a specific capacity. So usually you define it within like they're going to act within a day with this type of thing. You know,
Okay.
it's usually set limits. You know.
There's also an anti-essentialist perspective, like essentialism being like, by being part of a specific group, you like, it comes with these qualities that come about you. And this is anti-essentialist, which is like,
Right.
we're fundamentally all very similar. It's just the icing is kind of specific with experiences.
Right. But also, it's like some people are allergic to certain icings. Like, someone's allergic to soy. If I put soy icing on it, it would kill her. You know, so it's like there's that type of thing. You know.
Yeah. How does it transfer to reality? This is a metaphor which I'm not sure I understand.
Okay. So.
What do you mean by this?
This would be like because like if you take this logic, like some people could take the superpositional logic to the point where it's like, okay, we don't have to acknowledge a Holocaust or something. You know, we can deny a genocide or this type of thing, or blah blah blah. So like it could be used by a position of power to negate arguments from oppressed populations and that kind of thing. If that makes any sense. That's why you need that type of layer on top. It's like a gate. You know, it's just like in computers. You don't want the hackers coming in. Firewall, exactly. It's a selector that can be changed by contract, by agreeing people.
That's very interesting, and this is something very new for me. But I wanted to ask another question, and that is, so as an artist, I think the most truthful art you can make about is something which you have experienced personally. So do you think in this kind of art, in which you are performing, again, you're trying to make art on some other community, do you think you can ever actually make a very genuine form of artwork which can actually, like, can you truly experience what someone else feels and translate it in art very truthfully? I think this approach lacks in this aspect only. because according to me, the most fruitful art is the one which you yourself experience something personally and then you translate it into whatever form.
Well, this is what I would get to with, what's it called? Yes, so I think it's possible, right? That's totally, I think it's possible. Because, and it's like, this type of work is more complex because you have to be very defined with everything, with the relations. And if it's like the relations are accurate, then yes. I also think, I also enjoy kind of like this subjective, psychological, intuitive art that is indefinable to other people. I'm into that. But I also think the fun, like the enjoyment from that, this kind of like existentialist art, right? That comes more from this kind of fundamental fact of the universe that's constantly changing, at light speed. So it's like the truth that I articulate is true at like 1, trillionth of a second. It's true, and then the conditions change again, But that's what's enjoyable about that game because it's almost infinite kind of play there. So that's what I would say. It's like within this, it's a more static, defined situation, and yes, you can do it. It just has to be. I also think that's why there's a lot of controversy with this type of work, because if the relations aren't accurate and precise, it's more like building architecture, like this type of work. Then it's not true, like you said, or it's not, it doesn't have that resonance. But it's just it's a different, what's it called? It's a different problem than the subjective problem. That makes sense. It's two different games. It's like, maybe it's two different cakes. There's Western cake, and then like Asian cake, which is lighter, And it's like you eat the Western, if you, I don't know when you eat I don't like the Western cake, honestly. Like when you're at a kid's birthday party, you have to look, you have to eat the Western cake.
You have to eat this.
But for and that's how I actually determine it, because it's like long term, like it's like a social performance. You like to be like, yeah, I love this birthday party. I'm gonna eat the cake. Watch me eating the cake. Your birthday party's cool. And then but really you eat the Korean cake, which is like almost no icing. It's healthy for you. But you eat that every day, because you can eat this like once every 3 months. Though, if you eat it every day, you gain weight. Yeah, you get a heart attack. But you can eat the Korean cake or the Eastern cake. It's healthy for you. So that's how I think about those relations. I'm like, these are kind of like long-term architectures, And then.
Can you talk about solidarity in this context?
Solidarity for this.
Because solidarity, at least this is how I know is defined, is collective action or sentiments among people who are different, and they support each other, right?
Yes.
So how is superposition and intersectionality, or this is a term that is quite often used in gender studies, but not only. This is when which says that we are not, let's say I'm a woman, but I'm not only a woman. I'm an immigrant, I am an Eastern European, I am queer, and I'm mother, I have a child with disabilities, all these kind of things, or I'm a certain class, I'm like middle class, lower middle class, whatever. So I intersect all these identities, which should not be looked at separately, because when we look them separately, then we miss a lot of other important things. If I'm just a woman, then how similar I am to an American white woman or to an American black woman. I'm probably not in many ways. So intersectionality kind of deals with this idea. And at the same time, it is closely related to solidarity, because this is the way how you understand that you're not only one thing, you're so many different things, and you can have all these connections with all other people in many levels. So this, to me, transfers directly not only to intersectionality in your manifesto, but also to superposition as a metaphor that comes, or maybe it's a reality. It's the reality of physics, of quantum physics, that transfers into this idea of how to understand solidarity, how to use superposition as an idea of solidarity, besides having all these different identities and being a proxy, as you said.
Okay, let me think about solidarity. Okay, like how to. Okay, so this is what I understand. Hold on, let me just. Okay. Oh yeah, everybody works with sound and video, right? Media.
I think so.
A little
Yeah,
bit.
everyone. Yeah. Maybe except Natasha. Natasha is in ESF.
Okay.
And yeah, ecology, but she works with photography.
Okay.
So-
Let me see if I can find this. 1 second. Simpler. Okay. So. Okay. And also, everybody has a heart, right? Okay. Sorry.
Watching someone put the presentation together in real time.
Yes. This is the future, guys. Okay. All right. So this is what I think, and this is a great. Okay. Solidarity. So what I think is like solidarity. You split two categories. Okay. There's two categories. Guaranteed universal basic rights necessities. Subjective. Okay, so this is what I think. What I understand is solidarity. At least when I do it, like my personal vision, is I split them into two categories. Okay, so there's guaranteed universal basic rights and necessities. So we can think about that as like, this is like the resting heart rate. Like if you go too high for too long, I think you just die. I think you have a heart attack and you die. And then if you're not pumping enough blood, things don't really function. Okay, you're tired, you're sick, all this stuff, fall asleep. So it's like, we can think of that as like the low is, when you're not pumping enough, or too high. I don't do it, but if you're like on cocaine and you're just, you're going crazy. So that's what I think is like, there's like a heart and then subjective experience, let's say. Let me think about this. It's kind of like comfort level, or something like this. That's how I split it. It's like, so what I see is like guaranteed, like this is 100%. Everybody is owed this. As soon as they're born, they get a share. And this isn't like a personal theory. I'm working off this framework called the Politics of Distribution by James Ferguson, which it's kind of a blend of socialism and kind of governance. It's not like socialism isn't necessarily anti-governmental, but it's blending like socialism with kind of like more accurate metrics and understandings of like human limits and non-Western cultures, and also a bit of feminism. So, but basically he says it's like everybody's just like it's like every infant that is born is like, if you don't keep feeding it and giving it, liquid and nutrients, it's gonna die, right? So there's like this baseline you have to give every human body all the time to keep it living to the next day. Food, water, all stuff. So that's guaranteed. So I think that's a different problem, or that's a different game to me than the kind of like solidarity of subjective experience, and like kind of when you're kind of mainly working for like psychological, and this isn't negating it. I'm not saying this is bad or this shouldn't be played. I think these are just two coexisting games. It's like basketball can coexist with soccer. And so it's like, this is a different game and it has different tools. Like art is great, I think, and art therapy, kind of community, kind of certain kind of like book clubs or that kind of like anything that's more cultural that's in that game. So I think, let me try to explain this. And we have this discourse of human rights, human necessities, and yeah, that's how we split solidarity. So I'm like, okay, that's like a logistical problem. That's more of like kind of architecture. Subjective experience, psychological affirmation, that's more of a cultural practice, if that makes any sense. And I think it's like, so it's like once we have this baseline, you have to first, and I say this is priority. This is like, to me, this is always priority. Priority is the physical stuff. You create this baseline, and then you modulate the, it's like creating music. You create lower tones, higher tones. You have presets where it's like soft rock, classical, rap, traditional, whatever, non-Western, and then you modulate up and down to create subjective experiences. But you always want to be above the baseline. You don't want the body to be being destroyed. And then you modulate through, this is actually like the most effective thing is like culture and art and that type of thing. And it's also necessary to keep the body from being destroyed because some bodies will just kill themselves if they don't have like a subjective experience the next day to keep them alive. I don't know, that's really complex.
So, so solidarity exists only on the yellow, in the yellow square?
No, they're both solidarity. I just split them into two. It's like
how do you perform solidarity on subjective experience and psychological affirmation level?
Okay, so it's like some people like say if somebody's addicted to drugs, right? And if you don't kind of give them something to look forward to into the next day, they die, right? Like that's the extreme situation. Mm-hmm. So that's when the subjective, because it's like the drug is creating a subjective experience in their head that then propels their body, physical body. So that's when the subjective starts to endanger in the physical. So it's like, I've also kind of experimented with this. If you give people like nice music or like a cool movie sometimes they don't take the drug. They forget to take the drug. I don't know if this makes any sense. But you can distract people a lot of times when they're chasing this kind of, this is also like, I also consider sometimes art functions in this way as a drug to stop people from doing physically destructive things. That makes any sense.
Okay, I'm gonna stop asking questions because I wanted to ask another one, but maybe somebody else wants to ask something. No?
I just have a question in terms of like, do you have any percentage in mind, like when you are making these distinctions about guaranteed universal basic rights or subjective experience?
Yeah.
And I know you were using the example of a bread, like the cake is like 80% bread and the rest is like just icing on the top.
Right.
So do you have percentage assigned when you're discussing things in like things in comparison to each other? Because my only question is like, is there like an overlap? Like, could the subjective experience overtake the?
Right. So that's why I was talking about the drug case, is because like the drug users actually, it's usually they're having a chemical reaction inside their body. You can substitute other chemicals or other stimulants to create that chemical reaction. That's when the drug user, it's like, they'll die if they don't get the drug, right? But they're also killing themselves if they keep using the drug. So that's why it's like...
so it changes the essence of...
you're like, I can give that chemical reaction, I can create that chemical reaction without the toxins, without the poison inside. So that's when they would overlap, in my opinion.
Or exceed, or even exceed the...
Exactly, yeah.
I just want to go back to Anshu's question about representing somebody with a different identity.
Okay.
This is, I guess, the identity falls into the green part there, the subjective experience. identity is subjective experience. I'm just trying to relate
Oh,
what
okay,
we're
the
talking
identity,
about with
okay.
what you showed, because what you're showing I understand as like what is the function of art and what are our basic needs. But then this
Right.
we were talking about identity, intersectionality,
Right.
and
so-
solidarity. Yeah.
Okay, solidarity. So art with identity. So from what I understand, like I think most people, when they create their identity, it's a mixture of both things, right? Like they take into account like the things that produce physical survival, but also their subjective experience. So they usually, most people synthesize and integrate these things. Like that's natural. So I just think it's like, that's why I was like, this is like an idealist kind of way when you look from outside, be like, okay. I mean like, to me, this is more useful in terms of like crisis situations. And that's also like seeing the kind of limits and boundaries, be like, are we emphasizing this subjective here? Does the subjective do more work here, or does the kind of giving physical aid do more work here? But for most 99% of people who are like not in danger of dying or not on the edge, like addicted to something, identity is a mixture of these things, you know. And it's like, it's just like a DJ. So this is also, I think, where the creative aspect is. It's like in reality, like most people, if they're not addicted, and if they're not, if they're not about to die, and if they're not addicted, like identity is mainly just you're mixing tables. It's like you're mixing records, okay? That also has a reference to kind of stored memory. You're mixing records, you're modulating the experience, but you're also dealing with the energy cost, because the mixer also has voltage of stuff. You don't put enough power into it, it doesn't work. Overpower, it blows up. So that's what I think identity functions mainly. So that's how I see that. And then there's also like, that's on a personal, individual scale level. Jesus, sorry, I just like, I spent a lot of time thinking about this. Stop me if I'm boring. You guys want to go to another, okay. Let me say this. Okay, so, all right, so we can see this is like, these are the first two. Talk about it like this. Subjective experience. These are like the big two dividers, but it's like, these are in rare kind of like extreme cases. Then mostly people are doing at an individual scale. I see it as this. So I see it as like the effects are kind of, have you heard, you guys know what scale, like not musical scale, but let's see. So I kind of divide, when I think about these things theoretically, I divide them into these kind of, and these are all based on physical scale first. And they kind of have a little bit different metaphors here. So what I see, like this mixer thing, that's how I see it functioning as an individual scale. And that's how I also see the kind of, like this superposition thing, that performance functioning at an individual scale. Let's see, small group scale. Yeah, so then it's like, you know, for a small group scale, if we were to form an identity or a manifesto, we'd all have to agree on it. Or most of the terms, you know, we'd have to have some overlap, any type of thing. Because it's like, okay, there's 7 of us. To create an identity, we'd have to, you know, there's a name, there's some properties, there's all these things, there's these attributes that we put into the group, you know, type of thing. So then it's like, I can't really run around just like pulling random stuff every single day, every second, because you guys will be thrown off. You know, we have to go at a slower pace to have meetings. We have to have some dinner. We have to make a project, but it's a slower pace than if it's on us individuals. Just like, okay, I want this meme, I want this meme, I want this meme, I want to do this, I'm gonna change this, I'm gonna change that. Because then you'd be like, Peter, what do you do? Like, I thought you were supposed to be this. You know, I thought you were playing this role in the group. And you're like, you're totally different today. So that's what I think. I see them as kind of different scales.
Okay, do you want to show more work that you've done?
Yeah. Let's see.
Maybe with Selma or with you or whatever you want to.
Let me. I'm kind of curious because you guys riffed off the Unibomber. I just want to hear what you guys think about like. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so have you guys heard of QAnon by any chance?
Yeah.
And like, there's kind of this new kind of right fascist,
Yeah.
like this welling of like new web technology. And this is like a theory in the progress. Just throw stuff out there. So what I was trying to do was kind of create this idea, because what I was looking at in terms of the organizations between left and right and how they're kind of changing, was that the right, I don't know if you know this. So, this. In Israel, they have this unit called Unit 8200. Okay, and this is actually funny because it's might actually pertain. Unit 8200. It's a kind of cyber, like a computer intelligence unit, and they basically invent, like that unit is doing like 80% of all the kind of planet's like cyber war, like all its military actions, all that stuff. And I was just thinking, and then they come out and it's like 80% of them start like billion-dollar companies or whatever. So it's like they're actually powering a lot of the web today. But I was like thinking, I don't think I've seen yet like something like this in the left, like, because this is where they're working for the Israeli military, intelligence agency, but I haven't really seen anything organized like this in the left. Like there's this agent that takes like top 1%, and then it's like they pump out these kind of like, they're kind of cutting edge like cyber warfare or something. So I was thinking about this idea of like, what's it called? I was working with some artists about creating this kind of leftist conspiracy called Q-Fanon. You guys know who Franz Fanon is? No?
Yeah, you can say a few words about him. Yeah.
Okay, you can correct me.
I'm not the big. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
okay.
Go on.
Well, it's just like
I'm going to pull it out.
This is kind of a play a little bit. Like he's kind of a decolonial thinker, early decolonial thinker. I don't agree with everything, but I was just thinking about like, okay, what if there was this kind of like pop leftist conspiracy that had this kind of like speculative unit involved, like this imaginary unit that could do things it can't do right now, or it's very hard to do right now. So let me say about this.
So this is your new project?
This is kind of like, yeah, I was kind of integrating, I was moving toward this because I was kind of integrating a lot of things. Because I did, when I was in DC, I was just doing a lot of, I had to teach in like a rural area in Virginia, and it's like, I realized, I was like, oh, a lot of people in the rural parts of the US are kind of like, they're just bored. Like this whole QAnon thing is like, they're kind of just like bored, they see this image, and then they like, oh, this is new, weird. It's like, I'll just go, they don't really care, actually. So I had this video of like, there was like this, this is actually where, it's in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. There's this fascist right group called VDARE that's like, it's like anti-immigrant, all this stuff. But they bought like $1 million mansion there, and they're trying to create a base. So I went there and like, I checked it out, and it's like people are, a lot of times people kind of categorize the rural parts of the U.S. as like racist and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it is, but I was just like, wait a second, a lot of these people are just like, this is a kid, like just like a turtle walked through the creek and everybody just stopped and stared at it. And I was like, everybody's just bored here. There's supposed to be this big conflict between the right, this like grand political right and left conflict. But I was like, I was just like, no, like people here are just bored and they're playing around. So I was just thinking of creating this like, this is also why I'm into the Manifestos, because it's like kind of utilizing, it's like reversing these media tactics and like thinking about like what could happen, you know, what could be, like what doesn't exist right now, but what could exist, you know, thought experiments. And it's not like, what is it called? It's not really stating like things should go one way or another. At this point, it's like opening up thought and discussion. Because I think that's also kind of, from what I've seen kind of in certain leftist groups, it's like everybody's trying to convince everybody, like you said, like to join the cult or something, like join my cult. So I was just like, what if we just had like a place where we could throw out ideas and be like, what would happen if this happened, you know?
Yeah, so much of the right is about inevitability. It has to be this way.
Right, and then kind of the left is kind of has some parts of the left have to be like, everybody has to convert to this, you know. But it's like I haven't like you said, I'm interested in entertaining the ideas and thinking.
Possibility.
Yeah. So hold on a second.
Why did you bring the sunflowers?
Oh, the cake. Oh,
The
sunflower.
cake, yes, but I got the cake. Sunflowers, why are they here?
The sunflowers. Okay. All right. So let me see this. Okay, sorry. Let's see. Sunflowers. Okay, so the sunflowers are basically so we're gonna go a step ahead in the thought experiment. Like, say hypothetically, everybody, and then you know, I'm kind of playing this game, what if game, with a lot of artists right now across the world. We're trying to like produce it more into kind of existing art forms. But say we go a step ahead. Everybody's now like speculating. You know, everybody and their mother is like, what if we did this? What if we did? Like, you know, like we should change that. We should change that. And then everybody's arguing. Okay. So what happens is like then you're gonna have all these theories and all this stuff, right? And you're gonna be like, okay, how do we pick and choose? You know, how do we make a mix that's we think is gonna be good? Okay. So the sunflower, and what were you talking about in the beginning about ethics, about how do you define bad or good? So the sunflower is kind of a great ethical compass. That's what I understand. Because, okay, physically, the sunflower always points towards the sun when the sun moves. There's this other new, recent statistical law called negentropy. Have you guys heard of entropy? Yeah, so systems fall apart over time. But there's this rare thing called negentropy, which is actually a bigger law, much bigger law. Like, it's actually, people think entropy is the bread, but it's actually negentropy is the bread, entropy is the cake, icing here. It's a much larger statistical law, but it's very very few people talk about it. So what happens is like over time, it just states actually over time things complexify. Not that they become perfect or perfectly rigid and organized, but they become more complex but in a stable form. And then they move to another more complex and stable form. In between, it undergoes some kind of disorganization, disorder, entropy, a little bit of entropy, but it transforms to more complex and more complex states. It's just like how our planet was like, just rocks, and then like later there's 500 million explosion of life. Now there's like a million species, So it's like, I was like, oh, this is like, say, generation ahead, we go through this thing where everybody's like, what if, imagining, then we're gonna need some type of, compass to be able to think through and decide these things. And not like, what's cool about negentropy is that it's not like everybody has to adopt the same belief. It's like, as long as it kind of mostly functions physically, and is complex and stable, it's okay. Like, it's pretty healthy. It's like at a resting heart rate, it's okay,
So this the
That's
compass.
So I got this flower from the future for you guys. Let's see if we can't rip it.
And there is a
They pulled that.
certificate over
You
there.
get a certificate. Excellent.
Is this for us?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm presenting the class with a certificate, also from the future. Okay. It's called, what is it? So there's this film going on that we're making with all these speculative people. It's called Birth of an Invagination, the Noble Peace Fight. Okay. So let me go for the first half. Birth of an Imagination. It's like, you guys know this film, Birth of a Nation?
Yeah.
So it's like a play on words on that, but it's like let me show you.
What's an invagination? Is this a word?
No, it's real. It's real. I'm not making this up. I'm sorry, just believe me. I had this. This was like I feel exactly like I was in grad school. Yeah, I would say all this crazy stuff before you're like, what are you talking about?
No, just because you're saying it half word. It's it's
Look,
all
look
very
at this.
cool, but then there's some things that we need
No
more
problem.
explanation about.
Okay, this is this is my favorite videos ever. Okay. Really old.
The fertilized ovum undergoes rapid divisions and forms a blastoid. Each division normally takes about 30 minutes.
It's hard to hear. Can you?
It's okay. It doesn't really matter. But just like look at the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's just It's just a frog going from eggs to. Is describing the series of like, so you go from one cell, right, and then it's called bifurcation. So it splits into two, splits into four. So it continuously splitting, okay. But it's not like it's not being cut. What's happening is it's turning inside out, like it's like backwards. It's like, invagination is this process, like. It's very complex, what's it called? Like surfaces, like turning inside out. It's not like things just being divided and cut. It's like very relational, there's a lot of differences, all this stuff. So invagination, and that's also how the human embryo develops. When people are inside their moms, you go from like one cell and you invaginate. But it also describes what's happening now, like every single molecule at a chemical level is doing that type of motion. It's not like, in classical physics, they usually say, it's like, they depict the universe as pool balls, right? It's like, this thing, it's like things hitting each other, But it's like things are going like this, turning inside out. It's much more like everything's like a fabric, like we're like giant blankets, if that makes any sense. So that's why it's birth of invagination. So it's like, what I like about it is like, it's a pun on birth of a nation, but it's accurate. It's not like it's describing the accurate process of how we're actually born. Like, I don't know how to get more.
Okay, and we are getting a certificate.
Yes, okay. So
Me and the class is getting for successful birth of invagination.
Yes, because you turned inside out, you've gone through the process.
Okay, we're gonna put it over here.
And then, so the second part.
We ever get turned right side out.
Well, you can't stop. It's just happening. Like it's already happening. Every part of you. So congratulations. Keep doing it. Keep it up. Good work, guys. Excellent. And then, so the next part is the Nobel Peace Fight. So I was looking at, I was talking to some in DC. I was talking to some people who knew some people who won the Nobel Peace Prize. And they're kind of mean, and like some of them are kind of like, some of these scientists are kind of like sketchy, but they're smart. And I was like, okay. But I was like, what if we got a prize where it's like people are cool, like we had like a Nobel Peace thing where people were competing, but it was all cool. So I came up with this kind of stupid, playful competition called the Nobel Peace Fight. Here, let me do this, and it's based on solving a single equation. Okay. It's really stupid. It's extremely stupid. See this? Sorry, guys. Peace fight. Oh my God. Oh, here we go. Nobel Peace Fight. There's a couple F-bombs in here. I'm sorry. F-words, swear words. Oh, so like the reason my presentation is so crazy because I'm used to like it's integrated kind of into social media. So they're like equivalent. Let's see. Why is this not working? There we go.
Captain Amasian became being played by Chongha Peter Lee. Real human, acting through his body as a proxy. Look at me, shut up. Anyways, I'm gonna make, because if you look at my name, Chongha Peter Lee on Limna.ai, which is an AI-based art advisor, for every 100 centimeter painting, 100 centimeters by 100 centimeter painting is $5,100. So here, I'm gonna make a $5,100 painting. I've got a ruler that has 100 centimeters. Where's the 100 fucking centimeters? 100 fucking centimeters. All right, we got 100 fucking centimeters right here. 100 centimeters, length, width. Now we're gonna make 100 centimeters tall. There's some, maybe you get an extra centimeter or so, like you. This square of painting, this much painting, is $5,100 right here. I just made a $5,100 painting, $5,100 painting. Okay, so the painting it's called the Nobel Peace Fight.
I was like, oh, it's fun. We approach it like a puzzle, and you don't really care about all the rules. You come in as an artist. It's pretty fun and funny. So, the Nobel Peace Fight is. The thing is also, I'm getting into it here. Is like, basically because I have this totally arbitrary pricing on this service called Limna.ai. It's totally ridiculous. I was like, I want to give everybody a share of that painting. So everybody inherits a share. It's like $5,100 divided by 7 billion. So it's like 1/7 billionth of a penny or something. And then we can bet on what is the least stupid artwork. So that's why it's like a fight. It's like a competition. Like whoever gets the least stupid artwork saves the most people, gets the least blah blah blah. They get all the paint. They get that painting. They win my painting. $5,100, 100 centimeters. But I realized I was like, oh wait, I can be more flexible. This is why I made the. I was just like playing along with this thought experiment. I was like, it's funny because it's actually every centimeter is $5.10. So now whatever I sign, hypothetically, speculatively, is like
$5?
Yeah. So I'd be like,
Okay.
I'm just like making money. Like yeah. So it's like you just measure the centimeters in this image, and you're like.
Do we need to pay you now?
No, it's free. It's just like it's free. I like this.
Okay, so we owe $5.10
Yeah,
by just getting
Wait,
this.
can we get Okay, great. Thank you, guys. All right, that's for you. And then, okay, so this is the last thing. Okay, addressing, because my partner is like a staunch feminist, and she's really badass. She's a lot more badass than me. I was working on this idea. This thing I mentioned was Captain Amasian. Let me see. Staunch feminist. So I was creating this idea, also with these queer artists, about this idea of a Momtellectualism, and the Mompire as kind of like a playful reversal of like the idea of imperialism, but like a Mompire. So because we also like make a lot of art with moms and all that stuff, but like the idea of a Momtellectual, and I thought it was interesting with the idea of the future because it's like the mom knows ahead of time for the baby like how to keep it alive. Like the baby doesn't really know when it's born. So the mom is transmitting knowledge and nutrients and all that stuff. So I thought it was like fun. I thought that was like a more interesting, like less like what is it called, this less Promethean kind of heroic position of the future, where it's like there's this guy just like discovering or pioneering ahead, but instead it's more of like a mom, like they're ahead of the game, but they're like growing the children. They're doing it for the benefit of the children, and they're cooking and baking. So I was kind of playing with that metaphor. I was like, what I was doing, I was like, I think I want to quit contemporary art, and then I want to become a Momtellectual. Like I want to make this like a new career or industry. So I was like, I want to get into like critical. So I was like playing with this metaphor. I was like, I'm gonna be in a quantum kitchen and baking critical cakes. So I baked this cake for you, a critical cake for you guys. First cake. It's a queer algorithm. It says fragile and entropic art equals dead, boring world. So it's pretty critical. It's on a birthday cake. You guys are free to eat it.
This is your Momtellectual
This is
piece?
yeah. I baked this. Well, me and Wegmans baked this. But yeah, this is like I'm beginning into this like that's where I'm going. Is like this because I realized also is like there's a lot of contemporary artists like Peter Lee has a child. I was like, oh, you know, it'd be funny. And she used to make all these video essays producing knowledge, and I was like, it'd be funny is like if I talk to the kid, you know, it's like, what's she gonna teach the kid? Like, is the kid gonna grow up watching Peter Lee's videos? I was like, what if we just made contemporary art for children as like this position from a mom, you know, Momtellectual. I was like, and I was like, wait, there's already a lot of Momtellectuals, and I'd love to have. I like hanging out with Momtellectuals, so I was like, I'm just gonna start a Momtellectual showing. I was like, I'll be the first one. So I baked this cake. I would love to. Here's the thing. This is the video artwork part. It's like, Peter Lee, if you want a critical cake, I'll bake you one. I'll bake her one. Okay, so I'll put that on TikTok.
Okay. So are we eating the cake now?
Yeah. Okay, last thing. Okay. All right. Because we're on the subject of knowledge production, this is the very last thing. Okay. So there's this guy that okay, and we're talking about the future. Okay. So I have this guy named because also, you know, like what happens, like I've noticed with a lot of I'm going to explain this. What happens is with a lot of like critical thought, it's very rigorous and logical and stuff, but you get like tired and like people get cranky, and then, you know, this happens with me and someone, like we get in fights all the time about critical subjects, but it's just usually because we're tired or like hungry or something. So we came up with a strategy, it's like to kind of signal this, we start to drop into like this voice and say, oh, hey, maybe you just need to eat or something. Maybe we could talk about this type of feminism later or something. You know, we could talk about that. And then so like we talk like this, and then we're like, okay. And then it's like if I have to also like she hates this voice that I use, like my normal voice. If I explain something.
Yeah, who are you talking about? Selma.
Sorry,
I hate it too. This is a horrible voice.
Wait,
this voice is horrible.
You don't like this one? Oh, she loves this voice.
Oh no, I didn't.
Selma hates my normal. When I talk about.
Oh, she hates your normal voice.
Yeah.
No, I hate this one.
When I was talking about like quantum mechanics, she's like, Peter, shut up. And I was like, what? I was like, okay. So superposition is the multiplicity of states. And she's like, okay, I get it. I was like, okay. She's like, I like that guy. She's like, I don't like you. I like that guy. And then so.
Okay.
We named it this.
So reversed. Anyway.
We named it this guy named Estamagetrop. There's a reason behind that, but so and then also the same thing happened. Like I was like working with people in DC, and they're like, we want to talk to that guy. You know, it's like all this stuff. They're like exhausted by me. So one of them, I don't know if you guys know Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future, of course. Okay, so this is a different version of Estimation. There's a lot of these Comic-Con conventions in DC, so they're like, come hang out with Michael J. Get a photo with Michael J. And then this is during the pandemic. This is why he's in a glass box, okay? Because of Corona. Because they couldn't, like, in the midst of Corona, they couldn't make contact, so he's in a glass box. They take this profile shot. So these are my friends from Virginia, artists also, very cool artists. And I was like, they're like, we have a ticket to see Michael J. Fox, but we don't have one for you. And I was like, okay, no problem. I was like, what can you take estimation? And they're like, okay, yeah. And so we got this picture with Estamagetrop with Michael J. Fox, and now we constructed this backstory where Estamagetrop is back from the future. Okay, just like all this stuff, he's back from so he knows everything, and he's like what's called a panimal. So he's every possible animal. He's like the end of possible animal, and he's like super cute. You know, he's not like this predator type of like killer. You know, where people think the end of evolution is like a super predator, but he's like super cute and chill. You know, so he's like the end of evolution. He's a panimal. He talks like this, and then what he does is he comes back from the future. Oh, sorry, I messed this up. back from the future of post-work. That's another thing, like, that's kind of like vision of society, the artist I'm working with embraces like a post-work society. It's called Generation Post-Work Verse. But he comes back from the future with all this knowledge, with this first post-work society. And what he does, he's a quantum sexual panimal, he's an arqueologist. So he's like an arqueologist of the present. So he digs through the present with artworks by painting. He doesn't use like normal tools, he uses art to dig through the present. And he's constantly querying knowledge. So in the sense of like the kind of older term of like thinking outside the mainstream, more so, of like these categories of knowledge. So he's querying these categories of knowledge, and he's painting, and that's where this algorithm actually came from, this algorithm actually came from, it really came from Estimation Trop. We can't really take the credit. He's really the mastermind. Yes, thank you, you're welcome. Yeah, and that's the end. I've got everything. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know, maybe there are more comments or questions. Yeah, sure.
So, I really like how you make artwork inspired by science in some way. So I just wanted to ask how much of an inspiration is scientific thinking in your artwork, or are you just using those concepts to name your works?
I really don't see them as, it's like a tool in the box, it's just like if it makes something interesting, I work with it. And it's ethical, if it makes something interesting and it's ethical, I work with it. I don't really, because I'm coming from the superposition idea. I'm like, these things are in superposition. These are just tools, humans pass them to each other.
Okay.
They're interesting. And I don't take it too serious. Like, this is why I look like a goof, because like, some scientists think they take it as like, I don't know if you guys heard this term, ontology. Like, they take it as a perfect description of reality. And I don't do that. Like, I don't take it that way. I'm like, these are things, it's like chemistry. I'm in the kitchen, I'm like, that, quantum physics is like it's a spoon. Classical physics is also a spoon. There's other physics, it's a knife, chemistry is like a blender. I just feel like I'm baking. I don't know if that makes sense. And I see the knowledge as tools for making interesting cakes. If that makes any sense. Also art, like, that's also why I'm not really serious about art either. And I kind of play with it from the outside, because I'm like, it's another tool in the kitchen. Like, for me, I'm in the kitchen. Does that make any sense? And then I'm like, because I'm in the kitchen, it's like some people won't like that. Some people will like that. They like this dish, they're allergic to that. Although.
And what did you mention about negentropy, and how is it related to sunflowers?
Sunflowers, yes. Negentropy. Okay. So negentropy, you guys know entropy.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of negentropy. It's the opposite of entropy. So what happens, there's a statistical law, like baked into, you can think of it as like almost like, a gyroscope, how it balances itself. Like every kind of atom in the universe has this built-in statistical gyroscope. So over time, everything gets more complex, more diverse, kind of more flexible, and more connective over time. And it's peaceable. Like, it's not this idea of like evolution as creating a supreme predator. It's like things becoming more complex, diverse, and it has a specific relationship to information. So what's it called? So that's why I like the sunflower, because it's kind of dumb. It just points towards the sun all the time, and it's a great visualization of like, actually, like every single atom in the universe is actually, it's like if negentropy was like the sun, it's actually pointing towards it all the time. But it's like, we can't really grasp that at a human conscious thought level, but it's always doing that. So there is this hard proof that's coming out, is like, because what happens is like, at an atomic level, like one atom, if it spins wrong, it actually has the potential to destroy the entire universe at light speed. So it's like, and then that's how you actually know. It's like because it's okay. You think about the Unabomber. It's like, oh, like actually every single thing has this entropy bomb. Every single atom has an entropy bomb inside of it that destroys the entire universe, and it's like it has a chance of doing that like every light speed second, every 100th, cajillionth of a second. So it's like we're really beating the odds, So that's how you know. It's like on a very stupid level. It's like everything plays out to neg entropy, or else we wouldn't be able to see each other. Like the universe wouldn't exist physically.
You're saying there's new research around neg entropy?
Yeah. So it's kind of
How can I search for that? I'm curious to read that.
you just look up the
I'm
term neg entropy, and then look up complexity science. That's a branch of science that's more about synthesis. Like when you're saying, so complexity science, it actually has a field that's like connected with art and also non-Western religions. Like they're trying to connect and synthesize and use science as a kind of dough, to connect things.
What are you saying? No Western religions?
Oh, yeah.
Or I missed something.
Yeah. So there's this branch of, he asked me about how scientific thinking figures in my art practice, and I was like,
okay. So this is what
that's
okay.
that's the type of science I'm much more interested in. It's like the synthesis, complexity, diversity, connectivity, information.
And religions that are not Western.
Yeah, so they kind of like they analyze it from like they try to see what things resonate across. They're not like it's not, they don't have an anti-religion bent. They're just like there's some information in here that makes sense.
What do you define as a Western religion?
Western religion.
Judeo-Christianity, or
I guess so, but I mean, like now, like the more research I do, I'm like, this is just all like kind of West Asian. This is all Abrahamic, Middle Eastern, West Asian religion. Yeah, so I would just say like modernized Christianity. I think the older Christianity is like okay, as long as you interpret it rigorously. I think the older very like interpretations are interesting and more complex.
we're gonna read. I put the day before. I call it a manifesto, but it's a poem. It's a Gnostic poem from the 4th century, which is called Thunder, the Perfect Mind.
Okay.
Which is like this.
Like this.
Oh really?
It's pretty much written by that.
That's awesome. I love these things. This is like those are my friends, archaeologists.
Yeah, I put it in among the so Peter, we are making a list of manifestos.
That's great. That's super cool.
That we are reading. We will be reading some of them because the list is already very big.
Okay.
And I can put you in the mailing list, or it's a Google Doc
Yeah,
where
that'd be
you
great.
can put your
Stuff.
manifesto.
Okay.
Or your manifestos.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it is written by a woman. The Thunder is written, and it is early Christianity, which is there is the idea of entropy or division of sexes into male and female is considered to be